You're listening to the Wilmac Wire, the podcast that's designed to educate you on what's happening in the realm of customer experience and data management technology, specifically coming from the perspective of a growing organization. Thank you for tuning in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of the Wilmac Wire. This episode, we're doing something a little different. We've had employees on here before, but we're going to spotlight one of our leaders in the company, Joe Brienzi. He is our controller, aka in charge of all of our money, and he also wears multiple other hats as well. Very knowledgeable, talented young man. And so I'm really excited to have you here, Joe. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with me. So we're just going to dive right into it. So why don't you explain to our listeners and viewers about your role and what it is you exactly do for Wilmac Technologies.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. I'm excited to be here and kind of, given this opportunity to spotlight what I do and kind of what my team does, maybe, somewhat behind the scenes here at Wilmac. So for myself, I guess just to start off a little personal about me. I'm a father of two daughters and I'm raising them with my very supportive wife. I am an avid golfer, and I enjoy, spending time around the Finger Lakes region in Western New York with friends and family. From a professional side of things, like you mentioned, I am our financial controller here at Wilmac. Today actually marks my 2-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary!
I appreciate it. And like you said as well, my responsibilities, at the core of it is kind of in a financial reporting compliance role, but I also wear multiple hats. If you think about from a cash management treasury side and banking relationships, as well as from an employee side on HR, and then from a kind of risk compliance, risk management side as well for our leadership group. So those are all, I would say, the kind of key pieces that kind of sum myself up, here, personally and professionally.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned you were an avid golfer, but you are a good golfer, a pretty good one, I hear. So
Yeah,
not
right.
avid, but you're pretty good at it. And yeah, happy 2-year anniversary. That is it's a big accomplishment. Anytime, people have tenure with their company, it says a lot about the company. So, and I'm sure you're going to be here for many, many more years.
Yeah, that is the goal.
For listeners, you mentioned a little bit about your role, and can you tell us a little bit more about, why it's important for, a company to have like control in place for like their financial spending, and you mentioned compliance. Can you tell me a little bit more about that part?
Yeah, the way I kind of, I guess, see, from a, just at the sheer basics of what a company is. A company needs to, be able to sell its products. Then it either needs to, that's one pillar. Second pillar would be, how they deliver the service or how they create the product. And then the third pillar, which is, I'd say, more of where my team comes in, is how are we keeping score? So a key piece of that and how companies are able to make decisions, whether it's, impacting their strategy going forward or just kind of seeing, again, that scorecard of where they're sitting and kind of what decisions they maybe made, a quarter, a month, years earlier, how those are actually being impacted. So that's where we're, at the core of it, kind of the scorekeepers, and having those controls in place, making sure that you're having reliable, accurate, and also timely information so that, again, can still focus on whether it's the leadership group or other, decision makers in the company to be able to make those decisions. And again, really focused on accurate, timely, numbers and kind of that scorekeeping piece.
And we could definitely. We'll dive into your education a little bit as well. So what was the draw to this career choice of yours?
Yeah. So I think for me, growing up, my father was a CFO, former controller, former public accountant as well, and I just kind of, I don't know if it just came like natural to me, but
osmosis.
Yeah, and it just kind of was something I saw how he interacted, whether it was at home or with, colleagues and friends, and it was something that just kind of, came natural to me in school, whether it was, math or just kind of that, trying to make, decisions and solve issues. It was just things that I enjoyed, and again, kind of things that just came natural to me. I do have an older brother who is also following in these footsteps. So
Must
kind
just
of
be in the family blood.
yeah, exactly.
Numbers.
Yep. So it's kind of I don't know, been our thing, I guess.
You enjoy numbers, so like that,
Yeah.
and you clearly enjoy the processes that take place and what they result in, and how it impacts a business making all of its decision making. Because at the in the blood of it all, it's a budget, right? Like sticking to a budget, and you have to make decisions based on that budget. But those decisions impact not only the company but the employees of the company. So like having somebody that's passionate in their role, such as you are, is a huge benefit. And I think we can see that, especially in the culture that we have at Wilmac. I would say all of us that are in our roles are very passionate about our roles, and I think that's what makes us a very successful team here at Wilmac. Is we don't have anybody that's doing their job that dreads doing their job, which I think is very, very important.
Yeah, and I think to that point too. For me, it's what are the numbers? What is the story that they tell? And I'm kind of that help be that storyteller or that translator for other members of our team, or just like the business and other employees as well, that maybe don't either have that passion or kind of have that.
Well, everyone knows numbers
experience.
talk. They just probably don't speak the language of numbers like you do.
Yep.
So what would you say is, if you had to pick one thing about the role, what it would be your favorite thing about it? I know you've kind of touched on it a little bit, but why would that be your particular favorite part of the job?
Yeah, I think for me, it's that it's somewhat of a I'm wearing multiple hats. I get kind of a variety. I think coming into this, I from my background of being more financial reporting and kind of financial consulting, I thought like, oh, I kind of have that down pat, and I understand that. But one of the things that attracted me to this was more learning how to help run a business, where it wasn't just the numbers, but what do they tell you, and then kind of assisting or driving change from that, whether that's decision making from a sales side and kind of supporting that team, or all the way down to our service delivery team, and just kind of really taking those numbers, or even just when I'm wearing my HR hat, how do those kind of impact the business, impact the bottom line, and just really being a part of those different business strategies and change. I think ultimately kind of having that variety, I think, to sum everything up.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you can wear HR hats, so yeah, it's incredible. What numbers can say, what they can, how you can translate them, and how they impact the decisions that are being made daily, monthly, quarterly, yearly, and we do a pretty good job at it. You do a pretty good job at it. I don't touch the numbers here, so. So let's talk about how you got here to Wilmac. Any prior experience that you want to mention? What brought you to Wilmac, and your evolution so far over the last 2 years?
Yeah. So my, like I mentioned, my background is mainly I came from an audit and more of a financial consulting role.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers first 5 years of my career, and that was more the audit role that I took on, and had multiple different clients from different industries, stretching from manufacturing to healthcare and higher ed. Also was able to perform an audit for the Boston Bruins as well.
That's awesome. That's
my
favorite NHL team. You probably didn't even know that. That's awesome.
Yep.
I did not know that.
That was an experience. And then left there to kind of do something a little different. Went to another Big Four at Ernst & Young. Did that for 4 years, and honestly had a very dynamic team there. Was able to work with a lot of different public companies as my clients, again, stretching multitude of different industries. And our main focus there was around financial reporting and financial processing consulting. So we would work on, it was more project-based, and we'd be hired to, essentially assist CFOs and controllers, on some sort of project, or, kind of different pieces that they, had to touch. So that was kind of where my background was.
And if I could just ask a quick question about the background. So it sounds like you had about a decade of experience working for the Big Four.
Yep.
So, and what's your educational background?
So I got my bachelor's in accounting at St. John Fisher College here locally, and then I stayed and got my MBA at St. John Fisher as well. So.
Awesome. So you have a master's as it typically goes, and that, some of our listeners, are actually young professionals just entering the finance world. We have a lot of financial listeners. One of the common journeys is to go work for the Big Four. I hear that from even people I graduate with. Like, you have to go put your time in at the Big Four. Is there, like, for anyone that's about to make that, is there any like quick little piece of advice that you wish you would have known before you started that?
I think that's a great question. I think for me, and whether it's the Big Four or just other public accounting firms in general, regionally, nationally, I think the biggest takeaway, something that I don't know if I would say wish I knew earlier, but kind of my goal in all of that, I saw myself eventually getting to this role and kind of expanding into a CFO role. And I took that as, how can I learn quickly? They had great training, great access to just experienced professionals. You had access to, I remember being like a first or second year talking to, a CFO at a company. So you had great access to that, to be able to ask questions, kind of learn different industries pretty quickly, and really insert yourself into just different environments. When we would go on client sites, we were, a lot of times sitting in boardrooms or things right down the hall from the CFOs, controllers, AP, AR professionals. So we were right in the thick of it very early on.
Immersing yourself.
Yeah,
it sounds like you would definitely recommend fully immersing yourself once you start this career path.
Yeah.
As soon as you start. Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I know I have a couple of friends that listen to the Wilmac Wire. They are just starting that journey as well. So that's why, when you said that, I was like, that might be a good thing for our younger listeners to hear. So back to your journey. So you did your time at the Big Four. And then you got to Wilmac. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I ended up kind of getting in touch with our now owner and CEO, Steve McDonnell, just kind of through some friends and other colleagues, and our paths crossed. I think it was a few month process of, kind of feeling each other out and kind of just seeing really what his needs were and what, his idea for a new role was. Kind of matched that up to something that, I was looking for. Again, kind of treated the Big Four as a big time training
grounds.
Yeah, where this was ultimately the goal I wanted to get to. And I felt like some of the things I was missing was that, maybe not necessarily, at least a co-pilot in, business decision making and running a business. So I kind of saw this as, as we got talking, it was like, that's kind of what I'm looking for as my next option.
Awesome.
So I kind of felt like I did a lot of the Big Four thing, like you said, almost 10 years of experience there, and was kind of just ready to make a jump.
It's almost like, I kind of think of like you're a scientist and you're working on all of these experiments, but if you don't get to actually see what your decision processes are impacting, there's probably like not much fun of it. Because I'm at the Big Four, all the decisions you're making, you can see the results of you make a decision, you're going to see the results of it, like right in front of you. So I think that's very, very cool. Yeah. And I want, if you could, in your role, how important is that relationship, like you said, co-pilot with like the CEO? Like, you got to get someone to establish their trust in you. That's why you said it took a couple months. What's like the importance of being that co-pilot with the CEO?
Yeah, I think a couple of pieces, kind of what I was going back to, where there's kind of three core pieces of a business, right? What we sell, how we deliver it, and how do you keep score? And kind of being that main partner on the keeping score piece drives kind of those other two, because there's going to be changes that we're making. Whether you change the way we're sending out a sales deck or something along those lines, like you can kind of see on the back end, well, did that actually make an impact, right? So I think kind of just in its simplest terms, really kind of assisting kind of on that scorecard piece, and then being, someone to bounce ideas off of. And if we're making a decision, well, can we run some sort of analysis to see, kind of forecast and kind of see where we're at.
Yeah.
So
and
I think that's kind of
being a partner, like it's almost partnership. So that way, you don't get, there's no tunnel vision happening, so you're not missing anything. That's very, very cool. And so when you started with Wilmac, you were brought on as a controller. So obviously, there's nothing more above that. So you're not looking to advancement. How would you see this Well, we talked about the future of Wilmac a little bit later down, but the role specifically, how do you see the expansion of the role? Like, what would be the needs that you might see that are going to arise as like the company continues to grow for your role specifically?
Yeah, I think for me, my track is probably going from, controller, now we don't have, I guess, an official CFO. I'm kind of the quasi
Yeah.
CFO, but I think as we continue to grow, it will be, me kind of growing into that role and those, titles, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
but kind of backfilling, below me where I'm managing a larger team, have some different, skill sets going into there, and that's probably, the different hats that I'm wearing that I explained before, where it's, finance, there's a million different things there, whether it's forecasting, budgeting, I think you mentioned earlier, treasury management, just the common AR, AP functions, and then on the HR and risk compliance side. A lot of those different things, would sit under, me now, but as a CFO, you'd kind of still manage heads of those different pieces. So I think, I guess when I look to the future, it'd be more of kind of taking my, project and maybe team management skills, to where you're managing just more people with more diverse skill sets, and kind of as we continue to grow, kind of just managing those pieces.
It's very cool. That's awesome, and I'm glad that you can see that vision, and we're very thankful to have you here because you're ready to take on that role.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your actual team a little bit. One of the best things about Wilmac Technologies is we are a very team-oriented company. All of our leaders work hand in hand with their teams. Joe is always with his team. They meet. They actively plan. It's a great thing to see. So can you tell me about your team, what they do, and how they contribute to the success of this company as well?
Yeah. So our team, we are 2 key individuals strong. One of them has been with the company, I believe, for 7 years now. I think she just hit her 7-year mark a few months ago. And then our other individual, she came to us actually first as an intern, interned with us in the fall of 2023, through this past spring, and then in May we brought her on full time. So, you got to kind of see her growth, and wasn't necessarily the plan. We kind of had some, more of an internship program for her role, the previous few years, and she, was doing a great job and was up for graduating, and the fit made,
she liked you enough.
Worked.
She wanted to say,
yeah. I know, that was the more the thing.
You didn't scare her.
Yeah, if she was gonna accept it or not, I guess. So yeah, so there are, I guess just Wilmac in general, there are those, those roles that even an intern can continue to, do a good job and impress us to earn that position.
Which, I mean, most, soon to be college graduates, when they're going to look for internships, the hope that, I mean, we were both college graduates, so when we were looking at internships, the hope is that you're going to get an internship with a company that not only you like, but does give you a job offer afterwards, because you're spending all this time learning a particular skill set, but every company operates a little bit differently. So like, if you're learning something, you don't want to like just completely lose out on it. And I think that's, we have a very strong track record here at Wilmac. We have quite a few of our now full-time employees have been interns at one point in this company. And we continue a very active internship program. Do you have any plans to be bringing on another accountant intern?
Potentially in the fall.
So
we've been kind of going back and forth and kind of what that looks like, and kind of where they would fit. I won't say definitely for the fall, maybe the following spring, as we're continuing to build out our team. But like I said, I think Tessin and Nat do a great job of handling a lot of our needs. Hopefully we can continue to just get someone at least in here, whether it's a few, even a few hours a week, to continue to build that. Kind of, I'll say hopefully.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah.
And the importance of your team, especially in regards to our customers. Can you explain a little bit about that and how that contributes to Wilmac?
Yeah. So a lot of and in many ways, our two accounting staff, they actually are reaching out and in interacting with our customers, just maybe not just as much as our sales and service team, but pretty close.
Definitely.
We're handling a lot of the maintenance renewals and contract renewals for our subscription and maintenance type business. So we're sending out invoices, we're sending out quotes, and kind of getting, being in front of our customers to say, hey, in 90 days you're going to have a contract, that's going to move to whether it's a year or another, 3-year term, things like that. And we're having those interactions, those discussions.
So it sounds like that's a very proactive approach, and I feel like that's not very common. Have you heard from any of our customers that like they appreciate like that proactive approach that we take when it comes to billing?
Yeah. I think that, again, getting like in the 90 days ahead of time, actually, I think a lot of ways opens up sometimes for different upgrades. Those communications start, and we may have our service team go do a health check at a customer to see, kind of where is their system at? Is there, updates we can do that maybe, slip through the cracks, or do we know that there's a need somewhere? And as it kind of just getting that, in front of the customer, a lot of times we actually get some repeat business from that.
Which is awesome.
Not just the maintenance piece or the annual renewal, but in those cases we'll pass it back off to our sales team to work through that.
Awesome.
But we've definitely seen that, to your point, kind of being proactive versus
Reactive.
sending an invoice and kind of
then your bill's late.
Yeah.
I'd rather be told 3 months ahead of time with a heads up rather than 60 days afterwards that I owe money personally. I guess.
Yep. And then on the flip side, we're do our vendor relationships. So whether it's paying them on time, obviously they're happy about that. But then just kind of continuing to make sure that we're updating them. If we moved offices, just things like that of just kind of keeping our vendors up to date of what we got going on as well, and our partners and the like.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I obviously personally know, I work right near them, that our 2 accountant staff, they are heavily involved with customer interactions, which to me, I never even would have considered people in the accounting area to be interacting with customers. So, and I think that it's a phenomenal piece of our component of Wilmac, and I think that's something that contributes to our success, is that almost everybody's interacting with customers here.
Yeah.
So that shows how dedicated we are to our customers, in that we always say in the sales side, we always provide white glove levels of service. But a lot of people think that just means when we're trying to go out and get new business. But the current customers are the most important ones, because especially what we do, there has to be a lot of trust.
Yeah.
We work with heavily regulated industries that if they don't feel confident with who they're dealing with, they'll go find another vendor or partner or business to do business with. They don't feel that level of trust, and I think we maintain that, and I think it's one of our top priorities, in my opinion, just from seeing how your team interacts with our customers.
Yeah, and then one other, I guess, just piece I was going to add on is our team essentially to just, again, kind of the first line of defense here in managing our cash flow, and that's whether bringing money in and kind of working the collections and kind of maintaining the relationships with the customers to make sure we're getting paid on time, and then also on the timely payment of our vendors. So making sure that we're kind of keeping that balance.
It's amazing. Your team is also wearing many hats as well. So and that reflects your leadership, and I think it's awesome. So we'll move on to what about, do you have a very a favorite memory here at Wilmac so far over the last 2 years?
Yeah, I guess when I think about that, I'm kind of looking around here to our new office space. I think our first week here is something that really stood out to me. It was one of those things where I knew all the effort that went into moving out of our old space, spending some time in a temporary space here for a little while longer than maybe we thought. And then, ultimately, getting into the new space and kind of looking around and seeing all the different, contributions that people made to make the office what it was, whether it was furniture decisions all the way down to stocking the fridge on the first week there. So for me, looking around that first week of everyone setting up their desk and, everyone was here in the office, it was just, something special to watch.
Yeah.
Kind of looking back, which, I don't know, it's flown by, but it was only a few months ago.
Yeah, no, Yeah, I agree fully. And I think that also says a lot about what makes us, our company pretty special is, you know, post COVID, most people want to work from home. I would say about 80 to 90%. We have the option to work from home at Wilmac. Like we don't force people to be here, but we choose to be here.
Yeah.
Like we could all be working from home, but like we like being with each other. We like the new office space. And that says a lot because most people are looking for remote work now. Nobody wants to be in an office. So like, yeah, there's so much effort put into moving offices from our old one to the new one. You were heavily obviously involved in that process. So I'm thank you for sharing what your favorite memory is here because that's one of my favorite memories as well, and I know that like that was the fruits of your labor as well. So like I'm glad that you got to experience that.
Yeah, and I think too is the timing of it was kind of the spring, some spring excitement here in Rochester, which is always
we're starting to get one sunny day a week.
Yeah, kind of get out of the doom and gloom. I think the timing worked out well for all of that.
That's awesome. And so we moved offices. So obviously, you can hear it in anybody that you talk to here. You can hear from our CEO. We're all very, very, very excited about the future of Wilmac. We're all fully committed to it. What is one thing that has you really excited for the future of the company overall?
Yeah, I think since I joined here 2 years ago, I saw a little bit of the back end of the transition when Steve took over the company in November of 2022. I think just kind of that growth mindset, whether that's from a business side, a people side, I think just having that, and I in the last year we've brought on 3 new individuals on our development team, which was big for us and kind of our own product that we're getting to market.
Which that separates us completely from the pack. Like that, we have an investment in not only are we working with industry leaders and partners for our CCAS solutions, which obviously our listeners should be aware of by this point with the Wilmac Wire. We have our proprietary continuity replay, which is very unique to us in that we are staying invested in. We just brought it to the cloud. We just got an ISV from our partner Five9, so now we're being listed in their CX marketplace. So that's going to fuel the growth of this company. And that's, in my opinion, like you said, is what's going to keep us growing and expanding and hopefully expanding the teams and all that as well.
Yeah, and I think too, at least from when I step back and look at that, it kind of is starting to transition us into this new kind of startup feel, a new startup world, because it's kind of our own thing that has kind of been a product of ours for the last 5-6 years, but I'd say the last 2 has really been where it's been taking off. So it's been just kind of fun, and and I think taking some of those things we've learned from that and putting it back to I guess what I'll call a legacy business has just been fun to watch, even in the last 2 years.
I think it was actually I believe it was VP Bob Pease of engineering, who said that Wilmac is basically an established company that has a startup inside of it.
Yep, exactly.
Which is really cool. I think that gives us it's important to have a foundation. This product has been there, but it wasn't really continuity wasn't known about. But now that we just brought it to the cloud, means we're going to be able to offer it to more diverse industries, even smaller industries, because obviously a cloud product is a little bit less expensive than an on-premise solution product. So yeah, very, very excited. And also that speaks volumes to it as well, that you're excited about it as well. You're not involved in sales, you're not involved in product development, but you know what it means for a company to have something unique like that. And that's very, very cool.
Yeah, I think it just, continues to drive that mindset, in a good way, provide that urgency feel, and kind of getting people, excited. Again, just kind of going back to being excited, whether it's the new office, some new faces we have around the office, and kind of, building, continuing to build onto our already, diverse skill set here.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're all very pumped for the future. We're all, like I said, there's not a single person here who is not dedicated, and we're very excited. I'm personally thankful for our leadership team here at Wilmac. You guys are all very inspiring. I always tell Bob, tell you the same thing. There's nothing better than seeing a leader with their team physically. That's incredible. You could sit in your office all day if you wanted to, but you don't want to do that. I don't think you guys like being on the other side of the building. So like, it's awesome. And a lot of people,
sure.
that's what a lot of people look for now, because like, it used to be people were looking for compensation. It was always, when you look for a job or a career, it's money, 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 money. But I think, now that we have, it's culture now. I really think that has, like, if we're looking at like a scale, I would say culture is probably overtaking compensation by a hair now. Obviously, we all have jobs and we want to make money from it, but I think like the value that's now placed on culture is extremely high, and you have to have leadership that's invested in that culture being good for the company, or else you're just going to churn employees and like have miserable employees and stuff like that. So like culture is very important.
Yeah, I think to that point, we've had very good I guess good turnover, or we haven't had much turnover, I guess the way to phrase it. And this past year we won an award as being, I believe it was the ninth best company to work for here in New York for small businesses. So something, kind of to the testament of what you just described, something that's important to us, continuing to drive it.
Building a stellar team, that's what we want to do. Well, Joe, I really do appreciate you taking some time out of your day. I know you're busy. But we do appreciate it on the sales and marketing side from people that around the Wilmac Wire, that you took some time to do this, because we were very excited to do employee spotlights, especially our leadership, because it shows you also that we value you guys as well. Like we consider you guys like you're valuable to us because we need you guys. So if you could, if anyone wants to get in contact with you, could you let them know where they can find you?
Mainly,
learn more about what you're doing.
Yep. Definitely open for anyone to reach out to me if
he loves being cold called.
But I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. At least try to be. But certainly reach out. Even if it's questions on my career path, or for any young listeners out there that are thinking about making a jump to finance or accounting. Happy to talk to those people as well. I also try to get out in the community, do some of our different local events, whether it's at colleges, universities here locally, from like a recruiting or even just get to know us standpoint, and then some other community charity stuff that we're doing as well. So you see me out there, definitely feel free to come up to me. I think I'm pretty approachable.
You're a pretty nice guy, Joe, so far. But again, thank you for taking your time out of your day. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in to episode 13. And we hope that you enjoyed your time listening to Joe's journey. And again, feel free to reach out to him. And you can find him on LinkedIn. And that's it for this episode of the Wilmac Wire. Tune in 2 weeks from now for our next one. And thank you, Joe.
Appreciate it, Thomas.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Wilmac Wire. Don't want to miss the next one? Be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And while you're at it, head over to LinkedIn and follow the Wilmac Technologies page to stay up to date on everything happening here at Wilmac Technologies. And again, thank you for tuning in.
You're listening to the Wilmac Wire, the podcast that's designed to educate you on what's happening in the realm of customer experience in data management technology, specifically coming from the perspective of a growing organization. Thank you for tuning in.